Hi, I'm Mike Thompson. Today, during nap time, the majority of the backsplash is going in, hopefully. I'm a real stickler for symmetry, and I decided I wanted my line of symmetry to be the center here of the stove. So I went ahead and drew a plumb line down the middle. Then I attached a ledger board all the way down around the bottom. Whenever I'm doing tile work, especially above a bathtub, I never start on the bottom row because inevitably the very bottom of whatever surface you're doing is not going to be totally level. It turns out we do have a little bit of a high spot right over here, so that right there just wouldn't work. So I never put a full course of whole tile on the bottom. So I measured up 2 inches. The tile we're going to be using is this 3x6 subway tile. So I get to use 2/3 of the tile on the bottom, and it'll look really, really good because then I can customize the bottom cut for any sort of undulations all the way around. So I went ahead and leveled my ledger board with some scrap I had from the lighting that came down. Went ahead and nailed it around 3 sides here. I don't have quite enough, so I'll have to move down to finish the job. But now that I know where my line of symmetry is going to be, I can start my tiles right here in this spot. And I think I'll go ahead and use my this will be a grout line actually, where I center this. Because doing it this way will be hard to measure. Whereas if I pretend that this is my grout line for the first course of tiles, I can lay it just like that and run all the way around. So now I'm going to go ahead and mix up my thin set. You want it to be about the consistency of peanut butter. I'm going to go ahead and mix that up and we'll start to slap this on. So I'll just dump my thin set here into my bucket and mix it up with my drill. I've got a little mixing paddle here, and this is absolutely critical because it's really hard to mix much thin set without one of these. Then I use this small V-notch trowel to spread out my thin set once I stick it up on the wall. The small notches create some air pockets between the thin set and allows your tile to be pressed and moved a little bit easier. And so then I just spread it around real thin, making sure to get good coverage. Then I set my tile here down on my ledger board. Give them a little scoot to let them sit real well. Now I'm using 1/4 inch spacers, but I'm using them on their edge to give me a 1/8 inch space. I find this to be really versatile and stable. You'll probably want to turn the power off before you start this, just for safety. And then all major cuts are made on my tile saw. And then any interior sort of cuts or trim work is done here with an angle grinder that's got a diamond blade in it. And then I always tape my tiles so I can mark the cut location and to help prevent chipping. And this notched piece here, you can see, is going to go around an outlet. Then I give my ledger board a couple taps downward to separate the mortar, and it comes off real easily. Deep notches like this one are really tricky. You might have to separate it into 2 or 3 segments, but this one worked out fairly well. Then it snaps off, and you can see I got to clean the corners just a little bit with my angle grinder. Just like so. Then I mix up my grout the same way I did as my mortar, but just a little at a time.
This is unsanded grout.
Then I use my putty knife here to get it in all the spots down at the bottom and all the intricate areas. So the grout float's basically a rubbery or foamy trowel that you just sweep along the whole tile, and it forces all the grout into each of the grout lines. It's really, really easy to do, but it really is messy. I wish there was a better way to do this. Then I take a wet sponge and wipe it all down before all the grout dries. This clears off all of the excess grout, but then you got to make sure that you rinse your sponge really well. So I've got a 2-bucket system of clean and dirty water. I'll dip it in the clean and then wring it out in the dirty. That way I don't keep getting old grout scum onto the tile. Then I'll just keep wiping it until the majority of the grout is gone, and then once it dries, I will use a dry sponge to just buff it up, and this will strip off the last little bit of dry grout dust.
Well, it's pretty much done. Everything major is completed. Now we just got a little bit of appliance shopping to do to find some stainless units. I can't take credit for the granite. We used Natural Wonders Marble and Stone out of Tuttle, Oklahoma. They did a fantastic job, so I can't rave enough about them. The sink was pretty easy to do. The backsplash, I think, turned out great. My wife and son did most of the painting. I did hardly any of that, so that was nice. Pendant lights went up without too much trouble. Well, I hope this kind of helps explain things a little bit. It's really not hard to do renovations like this yourself. The key is just don't be afraid to try. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm Mike Thompson, and thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.